Hey guys, welcome to Griffith's Retro Gaming with me, Alex Griffiths. And today I have got a brilliant guest. It's self-proclaimed Mr. Marmite, the game's animal, Dave Perry. How are you,
Nice
sir?
to be on. Nice to be on. Good, thank you.
Good. So it's been a while since people have seen you on TV, obviously. A long while, hasn't it? What have you been doing in the meantime?
Well, 98 was when I left Gamesworld on Sky.
Yeah.
Halfway through filming because the show was I felt going badly downhill, and I just felt no connection to it anymore. So my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, was about to have my daughter, and I thought, why am I in London doing this when I could just go back and be a family man, to quote Ken.
Right.
So that was 98. And then 2001, I did QVC for a little bit, for a year, just because I was getting married, and I didn't realize how expensive it was to get married until I proposed. So
Yeah.
I did QVC for a bit, but then no more TV after that. I just gave it up. I concentrated on the magazines, set up my own magazine company, Predator, in '99. And in the background as well, I'd always had a passion for tattooing and tattoos. That had come from my art school days, back at the end of the '80s. And I just gradually fell more and more into that. And then in 2007, um, after magazines had just become such a struggle because, print is dead, the
Yeah.
internet taken over. And I just wanted to go back to my roots, which was my art. I'd always painted, I'd always drawn. And this was a way to use art to make a living, which is a very, very hard thing to do. And I concentrated on tattooing, and opened my own studio in 2007. So 13 years old it is today.
Wow.
And that's what I focus on now. I play for fun now, which is nice.
Yeah. um, so just going back, obviously people know you best for Games Master, and I was a big fan of it back in the day. But how did you get the gig on there? What did you do? Any presenting or anything like that beforehand?
No. Games Master. Let me think. Did I do anything beforehand? No, not really. Games Master was an odd one. I'd for the year or so before that, I'd been traveling on a bus. We had myself and this gentleman who I worked for. We had a converted old bus that we used to travel around the country, with the fairground people and convention people and things like that. And we'd rock up and we'd park, and we'd make all the signs for the carnivals and things. And I would do that on computers via a generator. And then I wanted to improve that and have more of a setup at home. And somebody recommended to me that I buy an Amiga, because the desktop publishing thing was getting taken off, and Macs were so expensive, and Amigas were going to be the next big thing, which of course they were, but they weren't as far as desktop publishing was concerned. So I started doing that, and then through the Amiga, I got introduced to a company called Special Reserve Intermediates Limited, which was the biggest company in Europe at the time. And back in those days, no internet, not many computer game shops. So if you wanted all the latest software, you joined a mail order club, and you got a bit of discount as well. So I joined Intermediates. I got free subscriber magazines. I figured I could at least do those as well, if not better than they were being done. So I applied for a job with them, went and worked with them for a year, joined them as a deputy editor. Within a year, I was the publishing manager for the company. And along the way, I'd been able to, I was writing freelance for other magazines, and I was able to build my relationship with the softcos and the PR people in the marketing departments. And luckily enough, when Hewland were looking at setting up Games Master, my name came up a few times, and I was invited in for interview. So I went along and joined the team, setting it up as a games expert. And then when we started screencasting, screen testing, various presenters and various co-presenters and things like that, my ego came bubbling to the top as usual. And I decided I wanted to do that. So I told the director and producer that I'd like to be screen tested as well. And they gave me a gig then as a presenter, a co-presenter on the first show, as well as being one of the guys setting it up, as well as being the monk bringing on the golden joysticks as well. So I was very much involved in that. And as a result, they kept me on for the next 6 seasons, which was great.
Wow. 6
It was
seasons.
just a matter of seeing an opportunity, grabbing an opportunity, and not being afraid to put your hand up and say, that could be me. I want to be that guy. So,
was Dominik Diamond already like the main presenter, or did they have him in mind, or did they go through a few other people first?
No, we screen tested a whole bunch of people before we saw Dominik. What happened was we didn't know what we wanted. The whole thing was complete virgin territory. It had never been done before. Yeah. And so we didn't know if we wanted a big personality, if we wanted a celebrity. We screen tested a few famous people. We tried a few out of left field kind of ideas. And then across the road from us, I think Planet 24 had their studios at the time. And Planet 24 at the time didn't have the big breakfast, but what they had was a music show called The Word, which was on every Friday night. And The Word had been screen testing for presenters. And Dominik had gone along with a bunch of other presenters to screen test for the show, for The Word. And he hadn't got the gig. But what we said to them, because we got on friendly with them, was, could we have a look at your casting tapes you've made with all the wannabes that came along to try and be on The Word, in case any of them were suitable for us? And from that, we saw Dominik and we invited him along and he came along. And it was pretty instant. It was pretty clear that he was what we were looking for, because we were looking for quirky. We were looking for something different. And we wanted something that was uniquely ours. And the trouble with bringing in a celebrity would have been they'd have brought with them the persona from what they had done before, and people would know them for things. Dominik was just ideal because he was nerdy in the way we wanted nerdy. In the if you look at the first 2 shows, the first 2 seasons, the first season, Cameron and Adam, they kind of got him set up as a kind of like a mad scientist. He was a bit Doctor Who-y. We had him in the little waistcoat with the white shirt and the floppy hair and the round glasses. He had this kind of mad scientist sort of look to him, which was great, which was very much what Cameron and Adam and Hewlin were all about. If you look at Gamesworld and the way that went in the early seasons, they were very much about, don't try and be cool, because if you try and be cool, you'll always miss. But just be quirky and be different. Be something that someone hasn't seen before, and then it can't be wrong, can it? So, he just worked for that. He was unknown, and he was funny, and he was very charismatic, and he suited. And it was clear. I think Jane took his casting tapes home and showed them to her son Harry and his friends, and they thought he was hilarious, and that was it. Sold then. If that age group were liking him on screen, I think he was always going to be the man for the gig.
He was very good. I've never forgot his name from when he was on there. We have our first question, by the way.
Yeah.
It's off Kevin Gant. He asks, I saw Dominik Diamond say he only met Sir Patrick Moore once, and that was on the last day of filming Games Master. Did you meet him at all?
No, I never met Patrick at all. I heard a few epic lunches. I think Patrick used to like Indian food, so they often went to an Indian restaurant. And I'm told Patrick used to like to order everything, not necessarily everything, but he liked a big table full of food and pick and choose. And but I don't think he ever met the people from the show that often. I think he pretty much used to rock up in the studio and do his voice bits and do his blue screen bit with his head, and they put all the effects in later, of course. And I think he just used to do that. And I think gradually, as the show went on, he probably got a sense of what he was doing. But initially, I don't think he had a clue what he was doing. He was just he was just being a consummate professional and doing as he was told. And it came across perfectly. He didn't have to know, did he? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It was ideal. It almost would have been bad if he'd known, because, like I say, he'd have brought that baggage that his knowledge would have given him. The fact that he didn't know just made him even more interesting.
Yeah, it's always struck me as a strange decision to have him as the games master, because I can't imagine him ever playing a Mega Drive or SNES.
No. Well, like I say, we went through a bunch of really, really quirky questions, quirky ideas. I mean, it's thank goodness we didn't go this route at the time. But one route that was one thing that was thrown up initially at one point, not for the games master but for the presenter, was Gary Glisser's name, because that I know that was my idea. That's terrible, wasn't it? Because Gary Glitter, up to then, we didn't know, and he was always a hero of mine, a musical hero of mine. I thought still love his music. Don't get me, yeah, but the man, what can you do? But I still love the music. But I always thought a big personality like that, sort of like stomping down the middle of a deconsecrated church with lasers and everything. I just thought, whoa, that might be something, a bit of a spectacle. But
it kind of makes sense, actually.
It never was entertained much before a suggestion and then thrown out. I think he was more someone I was interested in having on because I'd grown up with his music than anything else. Because the thing with when you get into television and you're not used to being in there is you suddenly realize that if you play your cards right, you can meet a lot of your heroes. So that I was always trying to get my heroes on the show if I could, so I could meet them.
Yeah, absolutely.
But but Patrick came along because the concept then was to have a baby. This was before the Teletubbies, so I mean, I guess we were groundbreaking. We wanted to have a baby in the sky because the thing was at that time, grown-ups weren't playing games. Grown-ups didn't get it. Grown-ups didn't know what their kids were doing in the bedroom. For once, there wasn't wet socks coming out. People were in the bedroom and they were playing. They're playing video games. And so the kids, when it came to technology, the kids were the ones you asked the questions of. They knew everything. So we thought, right, well, the games master should be a kid. It shouldn't be a grown-up because a grown-up wouldn't get it. A grown-up wouldn't have the knowledge. It had to be a kid. So we tried screen testing a few kids, but we couldn't find anybody with the gravitas we wanted because we wanted that forceful sort of like, what, how dare you? I'm the games master. We wanted that English quirkiness and we couldn't find it. And then somebody just came up one day and said that Patrick Moore looks like a big baby. Yeah, he looks like a big baby. And we were like, oh my God, he does a bit. Yeah, that could be the angle. It is pick a grown-up that could pull off the role, but actually had a childlike quality to their face. So that was how Patrick came along, and it was inspired. But that was Hewland all over at the time. And Cameron McAllister was an amazing director, and Adam, as a producer, was very accommodating of his quirkiness, and they would come up with these wonderful, very English, eccentric ideas. And that's what Games Master was. It wasn't like anything else. It was so eccentric. It's wonderful.
You touched upon the church as well, because when I think Games Master, that's the set that I always think of. Was it a church in use, or was it
that was the best? That was the best set. I mean, there were better sets. There were more grander sets. There was more special effects. More effort was put in it. But you're never going to beat doing a video game show for the first time, and you build an arcade inside a church with lasers and dry ice. I mean, how 90s could you get? Do you know what I mean? And it was just the fact that we put all these video game. I mean, what you didn't see in the TV show very often is we had coin ops all down the side of the church. It was an arcade, so between shooting, the kids could go and play coin ops. And we did this inside a church. It was deconsecrated, so it wasn't actually in use anymore.
Right.
But all the pews and that were in there. And when we walked in there, and you just saw the pews going down to the front of the church, and the big area where the pulpit was and everything, and we knew in our heads what we were going to do with it because we discussed it so many times. You couldn't help but have a little giggle to yourself. You kind of went, oh, we're going to do this. We're going to put this in a church. And of course, then the director and producer, they're on the next level of what they can and can't do because we didn't know television. We were just games guys. And then they came in and suddenly the cameras were in and the monitors were up and the lasers were shooting across the place and the dry ice was there. And of course, we had to imagine the games master. He wasn't actually there. But we just suddenly realized what we were doing. And it just seemed so naughty that we were doing, we were putting video games, which everybody at the time, if you weren't a gamer, everybody was on the back of video games. Everyone was hating it. This is terrible. This is going to destroy the youth fabric of youth as we know it and all that. It was kind of like nerdy punk. And everyone was anti it. And the fact that we put the first show in a church it was just brilliant. We felt great about that. Wonderful.
Playing games like Mortal Kombat as well. That's why I asked if it was like work in church.
Yeah. No, it wasn't. It was deconsecrated. I don't know if it's still there now, or if it's been developed on or whatever. But it wasn't holy ground when we used it. Not in the strictest sense.
I'll just go through another few questions. So this is off Sam Bruce Rysam. Evening, folks. Hope you were all well. What advice would you give to any aspiring YouTubers? That's me. He's referring to who are hoping to grow their channel. So,
well, definitely girls in bikinis. That's the way forward. Our first show got about 14,000 views. The ones where I don't put girls in bikinis, I only get about 1,000 views. So definitely girls in bikinis. No, I wouldn't know. I'm not a YouTuber. I do the channel because basically, when I left Sky in '98, I decided I was done with the games industry. I just felt that people were burnt out on me. I was, there was such a negative reaction to what I was doing as well as a positive, and that's why when I set up my magazine company, I launched a movie magazine, DVD Monthly. I didn't do games magazines, I as you can imagine, I was constantly asked to do things, conventions, retro conventions, game fairs, things like this, promotional stuff, advertising. And I always said, no, because I was done with gaming. I was worried I was going to become, an expression I've used that has haunted me a little bit when people review my channel is, I was worried I was going to become an Alan Partridge of video gaming. I didn't want to be this guy that was still harping on about this TV show he did years ago. I didn't want to be that guy. But people kept asking, and then one day Craig came along to me, and he does some great events, Revival, and Craig Turner, and he talked to me about doing his show, and I said, same as I said to everybody, no, I'd feel foolish. What am I going to do? Walk around hoping people recognize me? I mean, what if they don't? That'd be so embarrassing. That'd be terrible. It'd be crushing. So, no. But Craig had done his homework, and Craig knew that in the past I'd mentioned that I wanted my own Mortal Kombat 2 cabinet. We wanted my own Mortal Kombat. And Craig used to fix up cabinets. And he said, do the show. It's about 2017. Do the show, and I'll get you a Mortal Kombat 2 cabinet. And that was the deal. That was as simple as that. So I went and did his Revival show, and I was a key speaker. And it was amazing. The reaction was incredible. So many people wanted to know about me, wanted to have their pictures taken with me, wanted autographs, just wanted to chat and talk about gaming, which was lovely. There was no edge, because you can imagine in the late '90s that I faced a lot of animosity because of my profile, and it was just lovely. And so I went on stage later that afternoon, and I put a bandana on. I didn't have a bandana on, you see. And I put a bandana on, and I commentated on Street Fighter Challenge. And so for the people that love retro gaming, it was like retro gaming was back just for that afternoon. So it was a really good thing. So Craig wanted me to do the one the next year, and I didn't want to do it because, like I said, I don't want to become Alan Partridge of gaming. So he had an idea, and he said, well, a lot of people would have loved to have been on Games Master but never got the chance. So how about we do a TV show? You present it, and they can come on and do game challenges and that, like Gamesworld, like Games Master, and they kind of get to fulfill their dream of being on a show like that, like they watched when they were younger. And I thought it was a great idea, but for some reason it never quite came off. A number of people who were going to be involved didn't really get very involved, and on the day we were going to shoot it at Revival 18, I think it was, Craig got very ill, and it just never happened. But I told people I was going to do it, so I felt I should do it. So I did the show anyway. I did my own little amateur version in 480 DPI, which pissed everybody off, which I thought was wonderful, because it's these were retro gamers that were complaining about, or supposedly retro game fans complaining about retro game quality. So I did that on purpose to annoy them off, and I put the bikini girls in there because I knew that would piss off the snowflakes, which is always good fun, and easy to do. And then now I just keep it chugging over, because there's a certain group of people who seem to enjoy it and like it, and I'm not trying to do anything with it. The biggest misconception is when people say, oh, he's trying to be relevant now. He's too old. Different gaming has moved on. Things have moved on. So I'm not trying to be relevant. I'm not relevant to the modern gaming industry. What I'm doing, it's a games retro games channel with me talking about what it was like to be there in the 90s. If you were interested in 90s gaming and the console wars and that happened back then I can give you a little glimpse of what it was like to be there because I was there. But I'm certainly not trying to be relevant now, and you're not. That's why the channel never has any game playthroughs. It never has reviews. It never has cheat sections or anything these guys do. I'm not interested in pouring a tin of beans over my head or squirting foam at another presenter or making gurning faces to try and holding up a game and going, oh look, this is Castlevania 25 or something. Yeah, I'm not interested in doing all that because I'd look, it's not for me. That's for the younger guys that want to be sensational. I'm just me doing me from the 90s, like it's the 90s, and it's just that I wouldn't give anybody any advice because I don't think the channel's all that successful. When I see what some of the younger guys are doing that are pouring tins of beans over their head and things like that, and they're doing it a lot better than me. I'm not relevant. I'm just doing an old channel.
When you first did your first video, you took quite a lot of criticism, and a lot of it was from Snowflakes, wasn't it, about the girls?
Yeah, lovely.
Have you got their number, by the way?
Oh, the girls?
You might need a... I'm not joking.
They're in the house making dinner.
Oh. Yeah, so there was that, but I think the worst thing for me was the 480, but later on, I understood that you was trying to make it 90s. It all sort of clicked into place with the girls and then in the low quality. But I've got to admit, with the newer videos you're doing where you're talking about your experiences, they're just fantastic to watch, and that's the best bit about them.
That's all I want to do, really, because my days of having my finger on the pulse and all that are long gone. I'd be fooling myself. I'd be trying to fool everybody and not fooling anybody by pretending I had my finger on the pulse now. I can't do that. I love to play games. I finished my first new generation game the other day. I played Witcher 3 during the lockdown.
All right.
That's a few years old, but I played that on the PS4, and it's the first one I've actually completed because I flit in and out now. When you're my age now and you've been in gaming for as long as I have, I enjoy games across so many formats that that the modern games I don't engage so much with because not many of them appeal to me because I like to play. A lot of modern games I find I'm watching. Do you know what I mean? You play a little bit and you do your bit and then all of a sudden you got a 10-minute screen that's it's all very well, and some software developers he's sat there having his hard on moment, doing his little bit of creative directing and moving the storyline along, but I bought this to play a game, and so many of them are like that, and so I'm not trying to be relevant, so I play for fun now. And I lose my train of thought a lot.
We've got another question. You may know this guy. He spoke to me earlier. He said that he's got your golden joystick and Gamesworld jacket.
Yeah, he lets me know every now. He lets me know every now and then that it's safe and it's being looked after. That's important. That's legacy right there. That joystick.
Yeah. I remember him showing it off in a few. I've got to admit, I was jealous.
Yeah.
He says so. This is a question I was going to ask. Do you work on many Gamesworld / Games Master tattoos?
Well, I've done a few gaming tattoos for people, and I've done a few Games Master logo tattoos for people. But generally, I don't play that card. Like when I've been, when you have periods of being quiet and that, you think about it. Because a lot of people have said to me, if you just start doing gaming tattoos, and drawing gaming characters and creating designs around gaming characters, that when word gets out as to who you are, people will come for the tattoo because it'll make the whole thing a great experience, getting a gaming tattoo by the games animal, and chatting about old times while we're tattooing and everything. That would be a great angle. But I didn't want to play that card. If I was going to be doing tattooing, I wanted to become a well-known tattoo artist in my own right. I didn't want to try and play the ex-TV presenter card and go down that route. So I tried to, like I say, I tried to draw a line under everything for a long period of time. I told myself 18 years. once my daughter was 18, maybe I'd look at doing things with the games industry again. But I was going to give myself 18 years to raise my daughter and to be a dad, without trying to be the games animal anymore.
No, absolutely. That's more important.
Yeah.
So it's finally here. Dave, do you really hate Mario?
Is that the Mario question, or was that the devil?
It's borderline.
Do I really hate Mario? I don't hate Mario. I wouldn't have a drink with him. But no, he's I just don't like those games, to be honest with you. I don't like. I get a bit bored of the Mario games. I like Mario Kart, great game, yeah. Mario Kart, probably one of the best racing games out there. But running and jumping through the pipes and everything, it's just a bit uneventful for me. Same way I don't like Sonic. I find Sonic dull as well. Those games, they're just a bit too dull for me. If I'm going to play a platformer like that, I need something different. Gods by Bitmap, loved that game. Oh, yeah. Loved it, great game. It just had a little bit more about it. Mario 64 was never going to be my kind of game, because Nintendo was always my Achilles heel. Because, like as I've said before, back in the day, you chose sides. People didn't have two consoles. You were Sega, you were Nintendo, you were Atari, you were Amiga. You chose PlayStation, Saturn, and you chose. And the Nintendo games were too cutesy for me. I never liked Link. I didn't like any of those Zelda games. No, a little tiny cute guy with a giant head. I'm a man. I don't want to be controlling a bloody cartoon character like that. Yeah, it's silly. Girls play those games. They're gonna put it in their Spyro collection. I didn't want to play those games. And Mario was the same. I don't want to run around being a plumber with a giant head. People say I'm walking around with a giant head for years, but I just didn't appeal to me. So I never played the game. And at the time, I was editing a magazine called X-Gen, which was a multi-format magazine. And I'd been over to America and saw Mario 64. And I came back, and a lot of my friends who were in the software companies and were working for the format producers at the time, they said to me, their sales were down because everyone was waiting for the Ultra 64, as it was called at the time, before it became the Nintendo 64. And there was so much PR about it, including myself doing that PR in my magazines, that the consumers had stopped buying for Christmas. They were waiting till next year, I think February, when it was going to come out. So I made a big statement about it in the press that I would not play this machine and I would not play this game, because obviously Mario 64 was a phenomenon and everyone was excited about that game, until it was officially released in this country, because I wanted people to enjoy the formats that are out now this Christmas. And that was my thing. That was why when Games Master came around, everyone involved knew I hadn't played the game, and why I was particularly angry at being asked to play the game when I'd made it clear that I wasn't playing the game, because it was a moral thing for me. And have I played the game since? No, I got no interest in playing the game. I didn't want to play the game at the time. I don't want to play the game now. And people make more of that. They say, you can't play the game. Why don't you put a film up of you playing the game and lay the whole thing to bed and everything? If people honestly think that I couldn't play Mario 64, honestly, it's just it's not worth even indulging them. It's a simple platformer game, easy, but I just don't want to play it. Don't have the time, and I don't have the inclination. But I don't hate Mario. He's all right. He's doing what he does. He's probably quite rich now. Plumbers, they make a lot of money.
Do you want to talk us through the incident before it's asked?
Well, what happened that day? Okay, I'll tell you what happened that day. I'll tell you the facts. I won't tell you too much behind the scenes stuff, because he said, she said bullshit, as Fred Durst once said. But basically, what happened that day was, at the time I was working for THQ Limited. I'd left the games magazines. Okay, so when in the end, in my frustration, I say I'm a marketing manager, not a journalist. The reason I say that is because I am, and the company I was working for at the time were not producing for N64. We had no development for N64, and we only had 2 games for the PlayStation in process at the time. So we had no next-gen consoles in the office. So I had no reason to be playing import N64 at all. So that was the point I was trying to make clear, but I was so frustrated, nothing was coming out straight. But that instant, Johnny Finch had called me and asked me to do the Christmas edition. Now, another thing that people get wrong is they say, but after he did that Mario incident, he still appeared in episodes of Games Master, so he couldn't be that angry. No, we filmed the whole of Games Master first. It was filmed, it was in the bag. Then they asked me to come back and do the Christmas edition. I'd already finished Games Master at that point. The stuff they showed later, the Tetsujin episode and everything that I presented, which kind of made me the fourth presenter against Games Master, third presenter of Games Master, but never mind. I came back and that had already been filmed. So anyway, I talked to Johnny and I wasn't too keen because I like doing Christmas specials for Gamesworld and Games Master because we used to get celebrities in. Like I say, I like meeting celebrities. I liked all that because I didn't consider myself one. So usually we get some celebrities in, but we didn't. He wanted to do this quiz thing. I think perhaps Dominik had ambitions to be a quiz host, chat show host. So was it panel quizzes, whatever that are big now, and so he fancied doing a quiz. So I didn't really want to do it because I was done with it all, and I'd finished filming the show, and but he wanted me to come back in. My bosses at THQ didn't want me to do it either, so Johnny spoke to them as well. And what was said behind the scenes was that I had no reason to do it. I didn't want to do it. But I had some books that I was talking to somebody about producing, about combat, arcade combat and things like that. And we had a chat and we decided that the round specialist subject round, if I did that on arcade combat or Street Fighter or whatever, that would be good promotion for my book. I said, yeah, okay. I said, but as long as Dominik, doesn't set me up. I said, as long as the questions aren't too hard to make me look foolish, then it's good for the book. And that was all that was said. When I arrived on the day, completely free of charge, by the way, I didn't get paid a penny. I gave up a whole Saturday to go in there against my boss's best wishes to film this thing because Johnny wanted me to do it. Johnny was the producer. I went in. I got to the green room and everyone was playing Mario 64. I'm like, why is everyone playing Mario 64? Because we've been told that it would be a neutral game. We told it the guys from Psygnosis were putting together a level of Wipeout that had never been seen before that we were going to play or something like that. So the game was, no one had ever played it before, so it was a completely fair final. And Kirk, who was Dominik's best friend, was showing everyone how to play this level of Mario, this slide. And I'm like, well, what the hell? We're not playing Mario. We're playing, and if one of us has already played this game, then this isn't a neutral game. Why are we playing a game that one person has played for 3 months and no one else has played? So anyway, then Dominik bursts into the room and asks to see me outside, starts raging at me saying I tried to cheat and set up the whole show by asking for simpler answers, which was not the case. I've seen things written in the past that Johnny was supposed to have given me the answers for the show, whatever. Never happened. Well, I'm like, what the hell? No, this is just the arrangement. This is what the show's. This is how it was agreed. This is why I've come in. Why I'm working for free today. And anyway, so that was furious. So I'm like, I'm done. I'm not having this because I'm here on a Saturday. I brought friends with me. No. I thought it was going to be a fun day. I'm just walking. So I walked, got my stuff out of the green room. Johnny grabbed me, cleared the tea rooms, sat down with me, talked me down. I was raging. I was done. And told me not to worry about it. Told me that if we got to the final, there'd be a neutral game in the final. If Kurt got to the final with me, it'd be a neutral game because he played the game and I hadn't. And he said not to worry about Kurt getting to the final anyway, because Kurt probably wasn't going to get to the final. This is what Johnny said. And okay, that's fine. So I went along with it. And then gradually as the day moved on, it was very clear that the whole thing was being manipulated in some way, in that if you look at it for the facts, you can see a lot of correct scores were being given for wrong answers all the way through. If you count the points all the way through, they don't end up where they end up at the end of the show. And there's even things like there's 2 wrong answers. Then there's one, I think Kirk was doing game items beginning with P, and it was like, what does the X button, or I think it was the X button or triangle button, whatever, on kick or on FIFA do? It begins with P. I mean, it's a football game. It's going to be kick, through ball pass, isn't it? So it's obviously pass. But even if you don't know the answer, you say pass, so you get it right.
Yeah.
And then in the and then in the quick fire round, if you watch it, Kirk at the time was working on Earthworm Jim 3D for Viz. He's even got the T-shirt on the show, so you can see where he's working for. So you can check back what they were working on at the time. And the first 2 rounds in the quickfire round, the first 2 questions that come through are both Earthworm Jim questions. Out of all the thousands of games you could actually ask you make questions out of, why did those 2 come up? So I knew something was up. I sensed something was up. So when I got to the final, I went and saw Johnny and I said, okay, I figured this might happen. So you promised me a neutral game in the final. At which point, all of that was forgotten. It was all, oh, no, we have to do this now. We haven't got time to change it, blah, blah, blah. So by the time the cameras came on me to do my run down the thing, at this point, I don't even know how to play the game. No one's told me what the buttons do. I've never played it because I've said as a moral stance I wasn't going to play the game. And that was that, really. So I tried to play the game. You see at the start of it, you see me jumping around a lot because I'm trying to work out which button does what. I don't know if I've got a brake. I don't know how much inertia there is on the slide. I'm trying to work out an analog joystick that I control with my thumb, which was a new thing at the time. People forget how innovative the N64 joypad was. It was a completely new joypad. And I felt badly. And at that point, I knew that I was being set up, and I knew that Dominik was going to come at me and take the mick out of me on telly and everything. So I was just in a bad place, and I was frustrated. And even now it gets shown. I think it was on the other night on when kids' television goes wrong. It was on there, and people still think I'm throwing a paddy on there. And I hold out to this day. That's not me throwing a paddy. That's me being really frustrated. You can tell that I'm just really frustrated. I just want to answer my questions and get off the stage as quickly as possible because I'm done. But I'm trying to hold it together long enough to finish the show as professionally as I can, and then walk off the set and be done. And that's all it was, really. It was just a very, very unpleasant day where I could see where it was going, and what I should have done is I should have walked. I should have walked when I was walking originally, and I didn't. And I think I was angry with myself for not as well, because I knew it was going to happen. So, yeah. But it's a long, long time ago. But it's very interesting that it's become folklore. It's become such a thing of that whole gaming era. That's the thing everyone remembers, which is incredible.
Have you seen your Wikipedia page? You've probably not set it up. Somebody else has.
No.
In the first paragraph, it says that you're most famous for walking off Games Master. Forget that you co-hosted the show for so long.
Yeah, helped create the show.
Did you? Yeah.
Did 3 seasons of Gamesworld. Produced and edited over 3,000 video games magazines. Got voted one of 50's most eligible bachelors by Company Magazine. Forget all of that. I'm famous for walking off Games Master.
Absolutely.
But I don't care. Just being famous is good enough, isn't
it? Steve again. He asks, "Do you think that SNK's Billy Kane character from King of Fighters was based on you?"
Oh, I can't say, can I? But it looks like me, doesn't it? It does look like me. I mean, it's almost it's uncannily like me. I'm sure they did. I'm sure it's just a huge coincidence.
Yeah, I thought it is. What else have we got? Alistair says that he loves that you say joypad instead of controller.
That's old school, isn't it? Right? I mean, we used to call them controllers. Joypads.
Yeah, I had to get out of calling joypads because everyone calls them controllers.
They confuse me now. I mean, we used to just everything used to have a D-pad, directional pad. We used to call it the D-pad, and some buttons. And now I play PlayStation 4, and I got D-pads. I got 2 analog controllers. I got a touch pad in the middle of it. And I got shoulder buttons, and it's like, oh my god, it's like flying an aeroplane. It really is. It really. You've almost got to have like some kind of like strange genetic skeleton to play these things now. Whereas it used to be used to be a lot more gaming was about your own mind and your reactions and timing and instincts, whereas now it's almost like you've got to read the manual before you even pick the game up. It's
And they don't come with manuals.
eh?
They
And
don't
they
come
don't
with
put
manuals.
manuals, no, which is probably a good thing, to be honest with you.
Okay, so moving on. I
Yeah.
was going to ask this anyway. What was it like launching the magazine, where you're literally trying to throw everything together at the last minute? And which magazine had the toughest launch?
Were my bread and butter for years, and there's nothing like it in my experience. You are together with a team of 4 or 5, depending how lucky you are. The bigger the team you have, the luckier you are. People, and you start off with initial concept. You sit down with your publisher or the director of your company, and either it's your idea or it's their idea, and you go through it, you thrash it out. Then you pick your team, you sit down with your team, you go through ideas with them, and then you sit down with your designers, and your designer starts coming together, putting together the pages to get the feel of the magazine. And then you have a page of house rules. The magazine has a set of rules, down to everything, down to what is capitalized and what isn't. What you put apostrophes around, what you don't, how you write beat 'em ups correctly, which for your information is capital BEAT apostrophe EM hyphen UP. And things like that, and you produce all these things before you even get into the magazine. And then of course what we used to do in the early days, we didn't used to do this so much, but later on you produce a pilot issue. So you do a few reviews, and the designer designs them up, and they're all in house style. And then you have just like 16 pages reproduced over however many pages the magazine is going to be, say 132 pages, with the covers all on the paper you're going to use and everything. And then you send those out to the industry, and that gives you a feel of how the magazine is going to be. And then on the back of that, the advertising people can start hitting them for sponsorship and for advertising, which is a very important part of the magazine's financial structure. And then you start reviewing. And once you've set those magazines out, you then phone up all the PR companies, ask them if they got the magazine, what they think they would like changed. And you feed those ideas back, and then you start getting your software sent through to you. So you start doing your reviews and grabbing. And it's brilliant. It's very, very hard work. I got about 15 minutes left of mine. Eh? Thank you. So my director over there. So you start getting a feel for it, and you put it all together. But you never got as much time as you think you have, because in the early days we used to do 12 magazines a year, one for every month. But then what everyone worked out is if you did 13 magazines a year, it was more revenue. So which sounds obvious, but you do one every 4 weeks. It divides equally into the year, so you can do 13. And that way you get extra advertising as well. So where your financials are monthly, you've got that extra issue in there as well, which adds up. So, but that cut our time down to 4 months, 4 weeks per issue, and it's very, very hard. And I've had magazine teams bring sleeping bags in before, and we just fall asleep at our desks. We wake up in the morning and we carry on working. Coffee machine is a very important part of any magazine setup. You used to have your Macs, you have to have your games consoles and everything, but you had to have a coffee machine as well. Hardest magazine ever to launch was Station magazine, which I launched for Rapid. It was a grand project because at the time, Future were dominating the market. They had the official PlayStation magazine, and it was selling crazy numbers. And it was a great magazine, brilliant magazine, well written, lovely produced, just what you would expect from Future. But it had an official PlayStation disc on every issue, which was gold dust, and obviously a very massive selling point for that magazine. So when Rapid brought me in, Mark Smith, the owner, and I had conversations about taking it on, and producing our own unofficial PlayStation disc, which was thought to be impossible, which is why no one else had done it. But at THQ, I had worked closely with Sony and with their disc production departments and things like this, and I knew the process. I knew how things went through. So I knew we could do it. So we put it together, and we finally got this disc together. Huge amount of expense, which put a lot of pressure on everybody. But also during the production of the magazine, we had a mini revolt, and some of the team members tried to get me thrown off as editor or as publisher, and that had to be turned around. As it turned out, the owner stuck by me. I took over as editor. I brought in some colleagues of mine from outside of the company to come and help me get the magazine to bed, and we finally got it to bed. I mean, there was so much money on it, and there had been so much chaos. We finally got it out there. And the morning after we finished the magazine, I always got into work around 8:30, even though people didn't tend to come in until about 9:30, 10 o'clock. So I thought it was important to always be the first person at your desk. So when people came in, they saw you were always there. It sets a good impression. Yeah. I sat there, and literally for 10 minutes, there or thereabouts, I did not know where I was. I had no idea why I was sat at this desk. I had no idea what my job was. And for 10 minutes, I sat there, just absolutely lost. And I was lost because the pressure of launching this magazine had been such that I burnt out. I absolutely burnt out for 10 minutes. And definitely the toughest magazine I ever launched, definitely. But it paid dividends. I think it hit 132,645. That's very exact. I know. I think that was its sales. And it was the largest independent single format magazine in the country, and it did its job, and nobody said it could be done, and we did it. It's a great achievement.
Wow, well done.
Yeah, it was tough, man. It was tough, and some of those teams I spoke recently. I got back in touch with all the Gamesworld crew from Gamesworld magazine from back around 93, 94, and we still get on to this day, and that's because it's like a bonding exercise. When you do something that tough, you bond, and you see the worst and the best of each other.
Yeah.
And sometimes what seemed like the worst, many years later, you understand why it came out, and and it's cool. Magazine work is amazing, and unfortunately, it's dying. Magazines are dying, and the internet will never replace it. It is replacing it, but it will never replace it quality wise. It just won't, because it's like replacing a la carte with McDonald's. One's fast food, and one requires real discipline.
I can't remember last time I bought a newspaper.
No, it's a shame, isn't it? I miss the news of the world. I love the news of the world. Of course I do.
What you just said, this sort of goes into it rather nicely. Would you do Games Master again if it came back to TV?
Yes.
Yeah.
Games Master. I was so upset with Games Master. When the incident happened and everything, was because Games Master was always my baby. I've always felt very, very attached to that show, and I would do it again, providing the people that did it last time weren't involved, and but also it was a good idea. Providing people were taking it down the right avenues, and there was the right slot for me in there. Because like I say, I appreciate I'm not relevant anymore, but I don't know who is anymore, to be honest with you. But it might be nice if I was the Games Master. Kind of like a Doctor Who thing. Like that one dies and another comes along, and you get this continuity thing going on. That when they come up with a whole new Games Master, that maybe some of the people from the original Games Master who are synonymous with the brand actually get brought back, but in a different role to provide a continuity, but without affecting the relevance of the show and the show's progress.
Interesting thought, yeah. Cheers, Sam. Do you have any regrets? I mean, other than agreeing to this interview?
Regrets? I'd like to say I regret not walking off Games Master for that Mario incident, because there's no hiding the fact that haunts me, and I get trolled for that on a daily basis. I can't be as involved in the games industry online as I would like to be, because sooner or later somebody always brings that up, and it goes down the same avenue, and it's just forget it. So I probably would have liked to have walked when all my instincts were telling me to walk that day. But I kind of like the fact that everyone still remembers it and it still gets discussed all these years later. You know, all the other guys that were on Games Master all those years, no one discusses any of those things really. I mean, there's probably a couple of other incidents that people remember or cherish. Or, you know, probably the when they did the late night Mortal Kombat thing. I can't remember what they called it. They did they did a Games Master sort of like a blood special or something one night for over 18s allegedly. That one gets remembered quite fondly. But apart from that, everyone remembers that incident. So part of me actually quite likes the fact that, you know, the thing they remember about Games Master largely is me because of that. So it's a bitter pill, isn't it? Double-edged sword. You know, what do you do? You know, should have walked that. Yeah, but regrets wise, I tend not to have regrets because I think the things, you know, the things you do well and the things you do badly, they all make you who you are, don't they? You know, if
Yeah.
you can't regret anything. You make your choice at the time. And as my wife always says to me, you have to own it. You know, what happens, you have to own it. You know, I did what I did. I decided to go on. I tried to be professional. I tried to play the game. Um, I did appallingly at it. It was made worse for me because Kirk did so appallingly. I mean, to be honest with you, if Kirk had put in a decent performance, it might have shone a light on what I was trying to say. But when he was so bloody bad as well, it actually didn't help my argument at all. But you know, I decided to do that, and I'm a guy that, you know, I tend to wear my heart on my sleeve. So when I was angry afterwards, I couldn't just stand there and smile. You know, the other guys were happy standing there, you know, smiling with Dominik and being all part of the gang. I was on the other side of the stage. I couldn't pretend to be okay with what had happened because you know, I could see what was going on. So yeah, no regrets at all. My one regret, or maybe I discussed this lately with my father actually. Not having an agent. Should have had an agent at the time.
Okay.
Because at one point I was on telly 4 nights a week, and I had no one getting work for me. A hypothetical regret would be, I suppose, it not being around now at a time when you can be a millionaire reality TV star, basically scratching your ass in front of a camera. Do you know what I mean? I mean, we were what we were doing. My God, I'd be in the jungle and I'd be in Celebrity Big Brother house and everything now. You know,
You would, yeah.
compared now, I watch it now. I don't know who half these people are that come into these shows. You know, it's like I think I read Robbie Williams' book once. And he said he became suspicious of celebrity parties because he grew up in an era where celebrities were people that were famous for doing something. And I get that, you know. I look at them and I think, what have you done? Okay, I got to go. I've been told.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Yeah,
That's
the wife's calling me. My dinner's ready.
Dinner.
You get to my age, your dinner's very important. You know what I mean? You start looking forward to your meals. And my wife's blonde with blue eyes, so I mean, of course I'm going in.
That's fine, Dave. I just want to thank you very much for doing this interview.
Okay, thank you for having me. I'm sorry I only had an hour, but hopefully that was good fun for everybody, and they liked hearing a few things, and you know, I don't look too bad, you know, still my age. Okay, buddy.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot, dude.